After over a year of delays, I'm finally about to head in and see Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Now, the original film I thought had a lot of story issues, but the relationship between Eddie and Venom was strangely endearing. So I think there's a lot of potential with the sequel to build off that already established relationship between the two characters and just have a lot of fun and a lot of carnage. All right, I'm gonna head in and then I'm gonna talk about it. Venom, Let There Be Carnage is the latest film in Sony's Spider-Man universe, and it was directed by actor and mocap legend Andy Serkis. Be sure to comment down below with your thoughts on the movie, and let's get started with the good. And I'm very happy to say Venom, Let There Be Carnage has more of what was fun about the first film while fixing some of the issues. In the first movie, there was 40 minutes of setup and exposition before Eddie and Venom got together. In this movie, it starts with them together, so immediately you have all the fun that comes with their bromance. And since the post-credit scene of the first movie established the villain for this film, it means right out of the gate we get the plot, the villain, and all of the fun stuff. It really feels like they understood what audiences enjoyed about the first movie, but also what didn't really work about the plot and the storytelling, and they adjusted appropriately. And part of that is that this movie is unashamedly goofy at times. Tom Hardy just doubles down on his performance.
I will let you eat everybody! Promise! I promise! Oh yeah!
All the wild hijinks, Venom's misbehavior, what they do with Venom in the middle of this movie, and some of the adventures that he goes on.
That costume is amazing! Thank you!
They just know that wild, crazy, over-the-top stuff is what put smiles on the faces of audience members, and so they give you more of that without feeling like they need to be embarrassed by it. Even some of the powers that Carnage has, there's this scene where he uses a computer, and you'll immediately go, I don't think that's how that works, but it fits into the weird insanity that is this movie. Along those same lines, this movie leans heavily into the Eddie Venom bromance. It is all about their relationship and how it's developing over time. The filmmakers very clearly realized that's what people loved about the first film, and so they designed this movie to almost function like a rom-com. Not in the weird sense, but in that the story is all about two characters trying to live together. It's an odd couple type situation, and the director overtly stated that.
In this movie, it's like the 7-year itch cycle of a relationship. That odd couple relationship is what this movie was always going to be about.
That's what this movie is all about. Two people that can't live with each other, but they also can't live without one another. Another big improvement here is the villain situation. Cletus Kasady and Carnage are much more compelling than Carlton Drake and Riot from the first film. Cletus Kasady, played by Woody Harrelson, is just this super creepy serial killer who is an absolute psychopath. But Woody Harrelson has made a career about just being great at playing these reprehensible characters that still have a certain amount of charm to them that he brings into it, that they're so volatile, they're so dangerous, but they're fun to watch on screen. And that, of course, is the case here. And with the character, he has these interesting connections to people because in the most sense, he doesn't care about anyone, but he really cares about Eddie Brock and has this obsession with him. And then with Shriek, whom he has kind of this natural born killers, Bonnie and Clyde, disturbing relationship with her. But one of the things that's interesting about the movie is that it's very much about these oddball relationships. Eddie and Venom. Eddie as well as Cletus Kasady. Cletus Kasady with Shriek. Shriek and the investigator inside of the film, as well as Venom and Carnage's relationship. It's all of these broken people in connection with one another and exploring how that plays out. And almost all of these character dynamics and relationships are established in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the film. So as you go throughout the runtime, you know why certain interactions between characters matter, what they can be building towards, and it just gives a nice tension and meaning to everything that happens. Now, I don't mean to oversell any of this. This isn't some great exploration of the human experience, diving deep into the connections that tie us together. No, it's not that, but it is a thematically consistent film looking at a bunch of broken relationships in this wild, wacky movie about aliens taking over people's bodies and CGI characters punching each other in the face. It's more consistent and coherent beginning to end, and it's better thought through than the first movie.
Bingo.
There's also some nice creative flourishes from director Andy Serkis, in particular a segment where Eddie Brock is reading a postcard. It's just visualized in a really nice way that's fun to look at while tackling some really dark subject matter. And as this is a comic book action movie, you gotta talk about the action, and there's simply more of it, and it's bigger. Because Venom is in the movie from the very beginning, and Carnage is established earlier in the plot than Riot was established in the first film, there's just more of the good stuff. There's more Carnage from Carnage. He has a lot more to do and does a lot more rampaging throughout the film. And when you move into the final battle and showdown, it's a lot longer than the one in the first film. It's set up better to have better little moments of payoff with all the characters. And there's just more of the good stuff. And it's an environment where you can see better what's taking place. And finally, the movie moves at a breakneck pace. At 97 minutes total, that means the credits are rolling before 90 minutes, so there's no lulls. It never slows down. It's consistently delivering entertainment. They trimmed off all the fat and just deliver the good stuff. For me, I would say this is a better version of what they were going for with the first film, and I definitely enjoyed Let There Be Carnage more than the first film.
You did it! Congratulations!
It has all the stuff I liked about the first movie, but with a better villain, more consistent themes and ideas, and much more efficient storytelling. With that said, let's move on to the mixed aspects of the film. And these aren't necessarily good or bad things, they're just things that need to be discussed with the film. First one, I feel like the Venom franchise is a bit of an acquired taste. Some people just aren't going to like the weird Eddie Venom bromance, the dark humor that's still PG-13, and some of the weird antics that they do.
No, you cannot eat, Mrs. Chen. What? Nothing?
It's just not going to be for everyone. But if you liked the first movie, or at least if you liked Eddie and Venom, I would expect you're gonna like this one even more. And if you dislike the first movie, I suspect you'll dislike this one less than you disliked the first one. Second thing to discuss here is that there's a lot of people asking, does it work as a Carnage story with a PG-13 rating? I think it works as good as it can. If you just absolutely need to see graphic violence and people's heads being ripped off with body parts spraying everywhere, they can't do that with a PG-13 rating. But Cletus Kasady is very clearly a disturbed psychopath serial killer that killed people before he was Carnage, and he kills a lot of people after he's Carnage. It gets the essence of the character right while not being able to show blood, gore, and body parts flying everywhere. Finally, there is a mid-credit scene, but there is no post-credit scene, and that mid-credit scene is a must watch. Awesome! With that said, let's move on to the bad. The first thing that comes to mind here is that because the movie moves at such a fast pace and has such a short run time, it touches on a lot of ideas superficially, but it doesn't go into a lot of depth on some things that seem pretty important. In particular, the relationship between Venom and Carnage isn't really explored all that well. Likewise, there's some ideas introduced about Eddie's culpability in regards to Carnage coming into existence. It's put out there and it's not really addressed, it's not developed, and it's not paid off. And that's the consequence of trying to have a movie that just is so fast-paced and just keeps delivering action and jokes. You lose all the depth that you could do with the characters. Then the biggest victim there is the character of Carnage.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Very much the main villain here is Cletus Kasady, not Carnage. Carnage is treated more like this force of nature. It's the powers that Cletus Kasady gains but we don't really get to know Carnage all that well as an individual character. So by contrast, like with Eddie and Venom, they're both distinct characters, and we have a clear understanding of the dynamic between the two of them. And with Cletus and Carnage, we don't really get that. We don't really know what's driving Carnage all that much. There's a couple lines here and there. There's little moments where Carnage disagrees with Cletus, and there's moments where he references his attitude towards Venom and the connection between them, but we don't get enough of it to understand him as a character in and of himself or his dynamics with these others. And that's disappointing because it means that Carnage as a character in and of himself falls flat. He's kind of a victim of having a runtime this short. Not every character can be developed, not every relationship can be expanded upon, and Carnage is the one that he's in the title, you wanted to get to know him better, and it's just not really there. You get lots of action with him, but the character isn't explored.
Not a great plan.
Next issue, as I mentioned before, the movie's unashamedly goofy. Tom Hardy just doubles down on the weirdness of his performance at certain points in time, and anytime you do that, some of the stuff just isn't gonna work. For the most part, it had me laughing out loud and I enjoyed the antics, but there's certainly a few moments that went too far, crossed the line, and simply weren't funny, and so I cringed where I was supposed to be laughing. And finally, this is what I call a Taco Bell movie. It's cinematic fast food. It's highly consumable, but it's not fine dining. It's not trying to be high art. It's just trying to provide 90 minutes of escapism. That's what this does. It's not aiming particularly high, but it delivers on providing superficial entertainment for the fullness of its runtime. So I could sit here and nitpick more details about the story, but if you didn't like the entertainment in the first movie, you're not gonna like this movie. But if you did, this movie will be more of your type of cinematic fast food.
Groovy.
I dug the Eddie Venom relationship in the first movie. This movie provides that from beginning to end. Therefore, I was entertained by this film. Real quick, before I give you my final score on this one, be sure to join me down below in the comment section. Let me know, what did you think about Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and give me a point of reference. What did you think about the first film as well? Also, this weekend, I'm gonna be doing a video on canceled Venom movies. They'd been trying to make a Venom movie for over 20 years before the 2018 film came out, and I'm diving into all those past renditions. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I also did a video like this a couple years back on canceled Spider-Man movies. If you wanna check that out before this weekend, you can do so right up here. To me, this was a better film than the original. They learned from their mistakes and leaned into their strengths to provide a more fun and consistent film. It's not swinging for the fences, it's just trying to entertain for 90 minutes, and it does. And then it provides a mid-credit scene that's worth the price of admission by itself. It's a B movie, so I'm gonna give it a B, but it's an entertaining one, so I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. And if you liked the first movie, you should go see this one in the theater. And if you didn't like the first movie, probably can wait to check it out until it's on streaming, and maybe this one will win you over just a little bit. If you want more content like this, check out that video right over there where I talked about 8 different canceled Spider-Man movies, and be sure to come back this weekend where I'm gonna talk about canceled Venom movies. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.